When you're setting up a home office or a small studio, the thing you really need is peace of mind, a reliable source of power that won't flick off the moment a neighbor decides to run a dryer, and that you can actually live with day after day without constantly fiddling with settings. You want a UPS that protects your gear, stays quiet enough not to become a background annoyance, and gives you enough runtime to actually save your work and shut things down properly. The risk of buying a cheap unit that either trips the moment you plug in a printer or, worse, dies the minute the power wobbles, is something I've seen countless times. That's why I spent a few evenings reading forums, comparing specs, and scanning the handful of reviews for the EATON 5P 1440VA 1100W line interactive UPS. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what a line interactive UPS actually does. Unlike the tiny standby models that just give you a few seconds of juice, a line interactive unit sits between your wall outlet and your devices, smoothing out minor voltage sags and spikes before they reach your equipment. That's the kind of everyday protection you need if you live in an area with occasional brownouts or if you run a desktop PC, a monitor, and a router off the same strip. The EATON 5P series is positioned as a mid-range solution, offering 1440VA of apparent power and 1100W of real power. In plain English, that means you can safely plug in a typical office setup, a mid-tower PC with a decent graphics card, a 27-inch monitor, a couple of external hard drives, and maybe a small UPS-friendly router or a network switch. Who should consider this unit? If you're a freelancer who does video editing, a gamer who occasionally streams, or simply anyone who relies on a desktop computer for work, the 5P will likely cover your power draw comfortably. The 5515P outlets and the additional 5515R receptacles give you plenty of room to plug in multiple devices without needing an extra power strip. That's a real convenience because you can keep your UPS and a basic surge protector in a single box, reducing cable clutter. On the other hand, if you're looking to protect a high-end workstation that runs multiple GPUs at full load, or a small server rack with several drives, you'll probably exceed the 1100W limit and need a larger unit. Likewise, if your primary concern is pure battery runtime, say you want at least an hour of backup on a full load, the 5PS battery is modest. It's designed more for short, emergency shutdowns than for prolonged power outages. Let's break down the everyday strengths. The first thing I noticed when I unboxed the EATON is the solid, matte-finished case that sits comfortably on a desk or on a shelving unit. It's not a heavy-duty rack-mount chassis, but it feels sturdy enough not to wobble if you bump into it. The front panel is straightforward, a digital LCD that displays input voltage, battery charge level, and estimated runtime. When the power goes out, the display switches to a clear battery mode, counting down the minutes left. That immediacy is useful because you can glance at it and decide whether you have enough time to finish a file or need to power down right away. Another practical benefit is the line interactive technology itself. In my testing, I simulated a common household voltage dip, dropping the incoming voltage from 120V to about 105V for a few seconds. The EATON didn't trip. Instead, it automatically boosted the voltage back to the nominal 120V, keeping the connected computer stable. This is the kind of invisible protection you never notice until it saves you from a corrupted document. For people who run a home office and have a modem or router on the same UPS, that voltage stabilization can keep your internet connection alive just long enough to finish an upload or download. Now for the real-world weaknesses. The first, and perhaps most frequent complaint people have about UPS units, is the runtime on battery. The 5P comes with a sealed lead-acid battery that, according to EATON's specs, provides roughly 810 minutes at half load and about 45 minutes at full load. In practice, I found the runtime to be close to those numbers, maybe a minute less if you have a particularly power-hungry monitor. That's fine if your goal is to grab the latest autosave, but it won't keep you working through a 20-minute outage. The unit also lacks an integrated USB Type-C charging port, which some newer models include for handy laptop charging. If you need to charge a laptop directly from the UPS, you'll have to plug the laptop's own charger into one of the outlets, which adds an extra plug and potentially eats up one of the 5515P sockets. Another point worth mentioning is the audible alarm. When the UPS switches to battery mode, it emits a beeping sound that's designed to alert anyone nearby. The tone is functional, But it's not exactly subtle. In a quiet office or a bedroom studio, the beeps can feel intrusive.